Hi, I'm Yue Xu.
And I'm Julie Kraftchick.
We're active daters turned dating insiders.
Here to dive into everything modern dating and relationships.
Welcome to DATEABLE. Hello, friends.
Welcome back to another episode of DATEABLE.
You're in luck because it's just the two of us for this episode as we continue to explore this urgent topic of the love crisis that we've been talking about for a few weeks now. Just a reminder, what is the love crisis? Basically, the state of modern dating right now where people are literally throwing in the towel on love because it's so frustrating. They've become so negative about dating that it's like, why even try? Because you could be focusing on other parts of your life and love is just giving you a heartache.
Yeah, and a few weeks ago, we touched on the expectation of love on demand. If you're new to this, or maybe you need a refresher, we are going to spend a few of these episodes going through what we're calling the traps of modern dating that are contributing to this love crisis, that are keeping us trapped in this endless dating maze and something that we just want to get out of. So all of this is in our upcoming book. And of course, the main part of how do we get out of this? How do we get through these traps and out of the love crisis? But we're kind of giving you a preview. So by the time it comes out in January, you're like, yep, I get it conceptually. I'm ready to go. Let's do this.
So if you haven't pre-ordered yet, now it's the perfect time because your future self will thank you. By the time you read our book, it's all going to sound very familiar, but there will be solutions in the book that you can start putting into action, especially a solution for this trap that we see time and time again. I just experienced this with a friend I went to dinner with last night. He started the conversation with, I've given up on love because I'm too picky. I'm too picky that I can't find anyone. Wow. The times we've heard people say, I'm just too picky. That's why I'm single. I'm just too picky. I can't find anybody. I'm going to stop dating. I'm going to take a dating sabbatical. Or I'm too picky and the people I do end up dating, it's just like such a small pool.
But then why this is a real trap is because at the same time, we're okay with the bad dating behavior. We don't want to settle, but we'll settle for a situationship, for instance. So
yes,
this is the problem. We're going to talk all about it. We like to call it the settling paradox. So settling paradox, we talked about this, like why we're so afraid of settling for someone who doesn't feel like our ideal partner, that we end up swinging so far on the pendulum and settling for less than ideal treatment or unfulfilling relationships. And we want to get into why. Why do we do this in the first place? And then, of course, the solutions of how we stop doing this and get out of it.
Yes.
But before we do, let's do just some quick announcements. At DATEABLE Podcast, that's where you go to get up to date on everything. Make sure you're also subscribed to our new newsletter, The DATEABLE Dish. That's also where you're going to get all the up-to-date topics. We even share like what's going on in our personal lives a bit on there. Really fun things that I'm sure everyone needs to know.
Like me, still doing my taxes.
When Yue sent that over as her item, I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know what to say to this.
I'm sure you all want to know. I'm still doing my taxes.
They are maybe a little more interesting than that one, but someone out there was just like, what? All the accountants out there were just like, God damn it, Yue.
No, I know there's at least one of you out there who's still doing your taxes too. So you feel me.
You felt seen and heard. But also, like we've mentioned, pre-orders for the book go such a long way. This is what makes or breaks getting this book into the universe so the world can be more dateable. So therefore, net positive for all of us. We also announced last week we have freebies for anyone that pre-ordered the book. We have our modern dating survival guide. We also have a guide to dealing with anxiety while dating, which I know I needed big time when I was dating. And then also like 25 questions to ask each other within the first month of dating.
Ooh, so
we
good.
hear this all the time of like, how how do I ask the right things to see if this could be a good match without going to date review mode? And what's that right balance of, being inquisitive enough and making sure that I'm like, using my time wisely on someone that could be the right fit, but also, enjoying the moment and letting things unfold. So we help you out with all of that. So again, all that's free. It's like $108 value we calculated. So you get that all for free just with the order of the Kindle book, the audio book, or the hardcover. You pick. Any of them is yours. But you can go to howtobedateable.com, pre-order, step 1. Then you put in your order number and you get your freebies. And if you've already pre-ordered, you absolutely get the freebies. So just skip step 1. Or order it again for a friend, whatever you want to do. But then you could go on to step 2 and get your freebies.
Did you all hear that? It's free. Free, especially for all of you who've already pre-ordered. Thank you so much, by the way, for pre-ordering. You get more free shit now. So just put in your order number. You get all this great stuff. These guides that we've been working on for a long time, we thought about putting them up for sale as part of our programs, but we're like, no, let's give it away to people who are pre-ordering the book. It's a great incentive.
Yeah. And there are other guides too on our website, dateablepodcast.com, that you can actually buy if you want more and there's a specific situation that speaks to you. But these ones we definitely want to give as a bonus for the book. So yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer, $108 value for the cost of a book. Let's do it.
Yeah, which is not nearly that much.
Yeah.
I would love to see a book that came out that was over $100.
Yeah, it'd have to be a damn good book.
It would have to be a trilogy, right?
Yeah.
It would have to be like multiple books.
It'd have to be like at least 5 books to have the value.
Or a gold cover.
Ooh, there you go. Then you could melt down the gold to make more money.
That's our next book.
Capitalism.
Capitalism.
Okay.
Done. Done.
Okay, well, enough about capitalism. Before we go into the settling paradox, which in my opinion is a much more interesting topic than capitalism.
It's kind of the same.
Let's hear a few messages from our sponsors.
You know what season we're entering into? Cashmere season. Oh yes, with the cooler months ahead full of pumpkin spice lattes, wouldn't it be nice to be in a cozy cashmere sweater from Quince while sipping on said pumpkin spice latte? Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from just $50, but also have beautiful leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim, and so much more. I personally have the softest pair of biker shorts from Quince that are just as nice and comfortable as the really expensive brands, but like half the price. See, by partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, the savings are passed on to us. So lucky us. Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/dateable for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/dateable to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/DATEABLE. With the holiday season right around the corner, you bet I've already started thinking about gifts, especially easy gifting options. And I've discovered that the perfect gift is Osea's limited edition Super Glow Body Set. Now, this includes Osea's best-selling body care products packed in a beautiful box. So it includes a full-size Ondaria algae body oil, their new Ondaria algae body wash, which smells divine, and a travel-size hyaluronic body serum. And let me tell you, this is the ideal set of products for your everything shower. If you know, you know, right? Every product leaves my skin feeling silky, soft, and unbelievably glowy. Give the gift of glow this holiday season with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners. Get 10% off your first order site-wide with the code DATEABLEPODCAST at OseaMalibu.com. That's 10% off your first order at OSEAMalibu.com using the code DATEABLEPODCAST.
I've been really brushing up on my Italian for my trip to Italy, and this partnership with Rosetta Stone could not have come at a better time. I've been carving out 30 minutes a day on my walks, and their app has made learning a new language so easy. And it's not just Italian. This is such a steal right now because Rosetta Stone is offering our listeners lifetime access with 25 languages for 50% off the normal price. If you're looking to brush up on your Spanish, French, or even Arabic or Polish Polish, they got you as the trusted expert for 30 years and millions of users. The best part, though, is how fast it is because Rosetta Stone immerses you in the language and there's built-in speech recognition to give you feedback on your pronunciation. So don't put off learning that language. There's no better time than right now to get started. Dateable listeners can get Rosetta Stone's lifetime membership for 50% off. Visit rosettastone.com/today. That's 50% off unlimited access to 25 language courses for the rest of your life. Redeem your 50% off at rosettastone.com/today today. Okay, the settling paradox. Like I defined before, we're so afraid of settling that for someone who doesn't feel like our ideal, that we swing too far on the pendulum and settle for that less than treatment or unfulfilling relationships. And in the settling paradox, what we found is that we tend to hyper-focus on surface level qualities, often overlooking the qualities that are actually necessary for a healthy, long-term, emotionally fulfilling relationship.
And why does this contribute to the love crisis, aka why is it contributing to people dropping out of the dating game or even wanting to date and find love? It's because we keep going on these unfulfilling dates and we keep letting this bad dating behavior perpetuate, yet we live in this narrative that we deserve everything, that we're picky and that we don't want to settle for anything less than, we don't want to sacrifice. So it's this constant internal contradiction of I need more, yet there's nobody good out there and I'm just going to settle for this crap that's given to me.
It's a cycle.
Yes.
It's basically a cycle that keeps you on this dating hamster wheel in constant search of someone that possesses all said qualities. And then when you find them, I think this is the other piece when you're so caught up on not settling and making sure that you have every last thing on your list, then when we do find someone that has that, but they're not actually giving to us in the sense of like the emotional connection and what's necessary for a healthy long-term relationship, that completely eats at our self-esteem and mental health when we stay in these quote-unquote relationships.
Prime example. Girlfriend of mine says she's very picky. She really needs someone with this like Ivy League equivalent education, really needs someone who is smart and intellectually stimulating. Yet the last guy she dated, who was a PhD and was definitely intellectually stimulating, would not DTR with her because he kept saying, well, I'm too busy to be in a relationship.
Oh my God.
But he would say, but let's keep going because this is so much fun. We're having so much fun. I just don't want to be in a relationship with you. In fact, I am dating multiple people and I don't want to be in relationships with any of them. But in her mind, she's like, well, at least I'm not settling for someone who has less than a PhD.
We see this so often. This story like could be interchanged by so many.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make this a little gendered here because I do think there is some gender aspect of it. I personally see this with my female friends more. Like ending up in situationships. Maybe you don't. So if you feel different, correct me. I tend to see that women tend to hold on to this ideal that they have, even when someone's not giving us what we actually want. And I think for men, it almost feels like you can't even get a date anymore if you're not like this quote unquote person that has all their shit together. And it goes back to that like 80-20 rule we've talked about before, is that like 80% of women want the 20% of men. So those 20% can do that shit like your friend's guy was doing of just like, let's have fun and see where this goes. Because they know that they're in high demand. And then there's 80% of people out there that can't get a date.
Unfortunately, I think men are the same.
You're like,
in
I've seen it with my
hetero
friends.
situation, just with different standards.
Yeah, I could see that.
Right? I do see a lot of my guy friends. I have a lot of single guy friends right now who are like, I'm so picky when it comes to the type of girl I want. And it's always very physical driven. It's like, I'm looking for the specific look. I'm looking for the specific type. And then they end up dating these girls who look the way that they want them to, yet absolutely act in a way that does not align with what they value in a relationship. But then they're like, but I'm picky. I can't sacrifice my standards. I'm like, oh.
I'm so mixed on this word picky because, like, actually from our conversation we had a couple weeks ago with Lily Womble, who is a feminist dating coach, she was saying she actually likes the word picky because you can pick.
Yeah.
Like, that's how she views it. And I like that. I think where I don't like it is the way it's used in, you know, our dating culture of like,
yes,
it's like, I need someone that just hits all the check boxes and, you know, I'm just above it all. So I can have this person that's like all the characteristics I've dreamed up as the quote unquote perfect mate. I think there's a big difference of being selective in owning what you want and what you deserve versus being picky in the sense that you're like picking apart someone. So maybe it's like picky in the sense of you get to pick and you're in control. Yes. Picky of tearing someone apart. No.
Yeah. Picky is a word that gives me the ick. Maybe because it has the word ick in it. But it makes me feel like someone's sitting on their pedestal, on their throne or something, and they're going, you and you are worthy of my time, and everybody else go die. And it's like nobody's in that position. I think discernment is very important.
Yes.
Like you shouldn't let everybody into your life and you shouldn't be dating everyone. But to say picky kind of feels like you have the pick of the litter and you can like cast your spell on anybody. And then there you go. That's who you're picking. That's strange to me.
I like that. I hope that this distinction is clear to people that we are saying absolutely go for the full package, go for everything you want. But we also need to make sure we're going after the right things.
Yes.
And not the stuff that ends up being, like you were saying, like so focused on the physical or so focused on someone's occupation. That's what gets us in trouble. We're not saying you can't have some of that, but we do it at the sacrifice of being treated poorly.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I remember you telling me like about like your guy friend that like kept going after this girl that was like blatantly like, I don't want to be in a relationship.
That is the prime example that I'm going to keep bringing up in this conversation because every time I'm just like, what are you doing? He's your typical, like, I'm so picky. I don't want to settle. I've seen my brother settle. I've seen my parents settle. I don't want to settle. I'm going to be picky and go after the people I really want to be with. So the girl that he's so after right now, like obsessively after right now, time and time again, he actually sends me screenshots of her being like, I don't want to be in a relationship with you. I don't want to commit to you. I want to be seeing other people. And he keeps giving her ultimatums, you know, in 2 months. Can you make a decision in 2 months? And she's like, no, I can't make a decision. And he keeps wanting to be in a thing with her. And she keeps saying no. And it's so strange that to him that it's so worth it for him to chase after that.
You know, I also want to like shed light that maybe you're not the one using the word I'm so picky. So I'm like thinking back to my dating life when I was settling like crazy for unfulfilling situationships. I think it wasn't that I was using the word picky. I definitely didn't feel like I said that. But I did very much have an ideal in certain characteristics that were important to me.
Yeah.
And I got ahead of myself because I was living in a scarcity mindset. So like when someone did hit the marks, I went all in, even if they weren't really showing me signs of being a good partner. So I think that this settling paradox very much happens, even if you're not consciously saying you're so picky. So just want to put that out there that if you're like, I don't say this, I just feel like I'm not getting enough people that are good, this very much is for you as well.
Yeah. And I think that's what goes into this fear of settling, which is like for so long we've been fed this narrative that don't sacrifice what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Don't settle for anything less. Yet the problem with what that message is that we don't explicitly say what are the qualities that you shouldn't be settling for or settling against. So I guess people made up their own qualities, and end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Because I think what we've been telling young women is like, look, you're educated, you're hardworking, you went to this school, you make this much money. So you got to find a man who also have the same level of education and looks good and also makes this amount of money. Like those are the qualities we keep feeding women. But we haven't said, what about like kindness? What about someone who is committed, someone who is willing to build a future with you, who has
Yeah.
similar value. No, we didn't explicitly map any of that out. So we settle for less than those qualities.
A lot of this is baked in from society. I'm like, even thinking about your friend, what you were saying about like your male friends that tend to hyper focus on the physical traits.
Yeah.
That is all baked in from society. Like, think about how many movies reinforce that of like what the perfect partner was. Again, it wasn't like the qualities you were just saying. It was like, they're hot, they're this like size. And then for women, they're this height. You know, like there's so much of that that has been just baked into our culture for so long. And it all feeds in too with like the digital age of dating too, with the relation shopping mentality we've talked about.
Oh, yeah.
That the way that now you have dating apps that make it feel like you're shopping on Amazon, it only like emphasizes these ideal partner preferences or the traits we're looking for even more because we feel like we're shopping for a partner.
Yeah, I think our value system is so off. I think recently I just noticed kind of the way we speak to men about who they should be dating as they age. You always hear this phrase, trade in for a newer, younger model. You hear this in movies. You hear this in everyday conversation. We don't talk that way to women. Like no woman hits 50 and we're like, time to trade in your husband for a younger, newer model. Who talks that way? But men are constantly fed that idea. And no wonder that at some point, even if a man is in a great relationship or a marriage, they have that seed and then they go, oh, am I settling now? Am I settling in my marriage when I could really be with a younger, hotter woman at my distinguished age now? Maybe I should go pursue that. In fact, one of my parents' good friends, he did the exact same thing. He said it to me. He said those words to me. He said, Yue, I traded in my wife for a younger model. And
oh my God.
Yes.
That's horrible.
And he said, at my company and at my level, that is expected. When you get to a certain level in your company and a certain age, you trade in for a younger model. So he's like, all of us are walking around with younger models. And this is like now 15 years since the second marriage. And I asked him, I was like, how do you feel? And he's like, it's the same. It's the same. This is not any different than my previous marriage. In fact, I broke up my family for this because he had a kid with the previous wife.
Oh my God.
I broke up my family for this. And now this new wife has become the older model. Like, fuck.
I mean, I feel like that is an extreme one.
Yes.
I agree with you. That's been ingrained in culture. And I think women the same, of finding someone that can support you, even though none of that is actually relevant anymore. And I think it's not like conscious, but it does seep in.
Yes. Think about the times that you've had conflicts with your previous relationships or even the current relationship. How many times have you thought, oh, am I settling for someone who's not right for me? And could there be someone better out there? Like, I think that's the go-to for so much of what we've been taught in dating is like, oh, the minute you experience conflict, that's not, you're settling now. You're sacrificing yourself now. Go find someone better.
I think that's really the core of it, especially with so many options. And if you've been single for a while, the last thing you want to do is quote unquote settle for someone that doesn't like meet all of those criteria that you have had. So yeah, I think in a way, again, we're not telling anyone to settle, like in the sense of, you know, be with someone that doesn't meet their emotional, intellectual, and physical needs. We absolutely believe that people should have that. But I think this constant fear of settling is making us have these unrelenting standards to try to find this perfect partner when that just doesn't exist. There's no one perfect out there.
The word settling is problematic. There's a huge difference between feeling settled versus settling for less than you deserve or less than what you're looking for. And we constantly mush the two together and say, like, settling is just bad. Well, feeling settled is a great feeling. To feel stable, to feel like you're creating a life with someone, to feel at home with someone, that's a feeling of settledness that I think we can strive for. But then when you use the word settle, a lot of us go to the oh, you're going lower.
Yeah. And the crux of this conversation, what we've been talking about too, is the problem really lies in this not wanting to settle, but also accepting not good behavior in return.
Yes.
So like you end up settling just in a different way.
Yes.
And I think a lot of that comes from low expectations of dating culture. Like we talked about in an episode that we did with your friend Sonica, it was called The Lowest Common Denominator for anyone that missed it. She basically was talking about because like everyone else is doing shitty behavior, then she starts to do that. And when you feel like ghosting and breadcrumbing is the norm, if someone does that to you, you're not like, oh, I deserve more. I actually like am just, this is how dating is. Like everyone's doing it. It's normal. There was actually someone that replied to an Instagram post we put up about what it feels like to find your person. And she's like, damn, I have not had any of this. And it's really making it super apparent of how much I've like sacrificed myself in relationships.
Yeah, I mean, think about that. We are what we tolerate. So you are in your home and you open your door for this crappy behavior. That's what you're allowing into your life. And then we go, but that's the norm. Everybody opens the door for breadcrumbing. Everybody opens the door for ghosting. But then like the guy that has less than a PhD, you're like, closing the door on him. You can't come in. Then imagine who is now left in your home is all the crappy people that you let in.
I think the culture of red flags and icks is actually very detrimental to dating.
Yeah.
And this is like, again, it's the fear of settling. I don't want to settle because, you know, I'm going to scout out all the red flags and icks out there. But then what it does is it makes us so hyper focused on like every tiny thing someone does. And we start associating red flags to things that actually aren't red flags. Like we've heard some like ridiculous ones before of just like these tiny nuances or idiosyncrasies about someone that's a red flag. And it actually diminishes like real red flags. Like when someone's not committing to you or someone is belittling you or doing like abusive behavior, like why are those okay? But like what's a red flag that you hear that's like just such a dumb red flag that people get caught up on?
Oh, like he wore a button down to a date.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good
I've heard
example.
this. Yeah. Like, oh, so formal for a date. But if he showed up in Costco basketball shorts, that's also a red flag. That's too casual.
But why is that a red flag?
Why
Right?
is that
Like,
red flag? I know.
Like the definition of a red flag is like something to like be wary of that like a relationship will be problematic.
Yes.
Like maybe that's not your choice of clothing, but when we call it a red flag, it diminishes the actual definition of a red flag.
That's very true. Yes, because that's not a detriment to your relationship.
No.
It's a personal choice in fashion. Maybe it's not your choice in fashion. But we pick up these red flags because this is the reason why we do this. We're constantly looking for icks and red flags is because we constantly want to reason with ourselves. It's our brain's way of trying to explain something. And some situations and people, you don't have a reason or explanation, but we're like, there's a reason why this cannot continue. Oh, it's because of the button-down shirt. There's a reason why, that I'm not attracted to this person. Oh, it's because she held her fork with her left hand. And you're like, no, stop trying to reason it out. Right. Just go with your gut feeling. I'm not feeling this or I am feeling this. But let's stop looking for the exact reasons because sometimes there aren't exact reasons.
I think the other piece of like why we continue to settle for like poor treatment and, bad dating behavior is because that's what society has normalized in terms of attraction and love.
Yeah.
Like we see like the chase and navigating the ups and downs when eventually love conquers all. And we start to think this is like how love works. It's normal.
That love is a battlefield, that you have to go through all the drama to find the love of your life who's going to be so worth it and glowing at the end of this journey. But it's not that dramatic, y'all. It's like, it shouldn't be that dramatic. And we're making it extremely dramatic. And we feel like, oh, if I don't go through the normal bad dating behavior, then I won't be deserving of that person at the end of the tunnel.
This stuff like runs so deep because like I feel like when we're saying it, you're like, of course I'm not doing that. Like I could differentiate between a movie and,
Yeah.
my life. But I feel like when I was in my on again, off again relationship, like I justified so much that I was just like, oh, it'll eventually work out. Like this is just a bump in the road, Like
Yeah.
this is how it goes. This is part of it. I think our minds, when we like someone or when we feel like, quote unquote, we met that person that, checks the boxes and we feel like it's so rare to find that attraction that we end up settling for these bad behaviors, we can justify it all.
We can justify anything because our brains work for us. Our brains are not neutral in any way or objective. Our brains are like, oh, what is it that you want, Julie? Okay, I will tell you exactly. That's right. That is correct. That's what's so problematic because we rely so much on our brains for dating. We don't listen to our heart, our gut, our body. It's like a lot of it is so contradictory.
But some of it's changing your own definition of love too. Because I think during that time for me, it was very much like the excitement. And there was more drama, excitement when there were the ups and downs. And like, I think if I was in the relationship I'm in now, I would have found it boring.
Uh-huh.
I would have nothing to talk about with my friends. And I think that was like a stage of life that I was in. And sometimes you just have to have these experiences to get you to where you need to go. So I'm saying that like there's no shame in feeling like, oh shit, I have really settled for poor treatment in the past. The idea here is so we recognize it and we move out of it so we don't keep doing this cycle.
Yeah. And then we need to get really clear on what is on our list of what we want in a relationship. And sometimes, like, I look at my old list and it's a list of the characteristics of what someone comes as, what their package already as, that was without any influence from me or has anything to do with me. Like someone's height, someone's education, someone's circle of friends.
Right. That was my list too. Yeah.
That has nothing, like how much someone makes, has nothing to do with you, right? You did not influence any of that. So the list, it's actually, you can kind of throw out the list because that's not in relation to you. But now thinking, if you were to redo the list in relation to you, what would that look like? I want someone who values family and really respects my family. I want someone who wants to talk about finances with me, who wants to build an investment portfolio with me. Like that was never on my list.
Yeah.
That's stuff you can work on together.
And don't you worry, that's a big part of our book of taking you through having the better, what we call the perfect partner equation. So that will come. So don't worry, all there for you. But I could not agree more. I think a big piece of it is just what we've been fed again by society and culture.
It's very unfortunate, but I'm so happy. I think it's fortunate. I wrote this we have a little outline of things we want to talk about. I just remembered I had this, the first wedding I ever went to. I was 8 years old. And it was my parents' friends, and it was like this really grand wedding. I spent a week searching for the perfect dress because, Julie, this is a wedding. It's such a big deal. I've grown up my entire life of 8 years. I thought, oh my gosh, a wedding is the most magical event in a person's life. So I go to this wedding, and it's beautiful. And of course, she's got like this beautiful white dress on, and they say these vows to each other. And they had a very dramatic love story of how they met and how they fell in love. And I was like, oh my God, yes, I'm so invested now. I was 8 years old. 6 months later, my parents tell me they had separated. And I remember the feeling, thinking like, there's no Santa Claus. That is how I felt when I found out there was no Santa Claus. It's like, what? Love does not conquer all. Like you just can't, love is not going to just keep two people together. And my parents couldn't even explain to me why. They could not justify to me why this happened. That moment really ingrained in my mind of thinking, then what can make two people work if it's not love and this grand gesture of love and a wedding and even these vows of commitment? What is it?
Wow, that's a lot for an 8-year-old.
I know. I know. It is a lot. That's probably why I've been so skeptical of people in my life. But, but damn, it's like we put so much on love to do everything, to just make it work, that we think like by settling for this terrible behavior that it's like, as long as you have love, it's fine.
Yeah. I want to get into our last reason of like why this is happening. And then, of course, we'll get into solutions of what we can actually do about this. But before we do, let's take a minute to hear from our sponsors.
As the crisp fall air rolls in and the leaves begin to change, don't rely only on pumpkin to spice up your life. Embrace the natural power of cannabis this fall with Via. Whether you're lounging by the fire or exploring new adventures, Via's premium federally legal cannabis products are your perfect companion. Farmed and crafted with care in the U.S. and trusted by over 500,000 customers, Via has a product for everyone. Via just launched their high THCA flower and brand new flavors for the THCA vape slime, so you have more options than ever to blaze your own trail. You've all heard me talking also about their gummies. My favorite is the High Love Gummy that will awaken your senses and increase blood flow. I absolutely love it for pretty much every occasion. So if you are over 21 years of age, head to viahemp.com and use the code DATEABLE to receive 15% off. That's VIIAHEMP.com and use the code DATEABLE at checkout. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. This fall, enhance your everyday with Via.
Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. I talked about this last year and I'm so excited to talk about it again, but Uncommon Goods is my absolute favorite place to do holiday shopping. They scour the globe for original, handmade, absolutely remarkable things, and it shows. Uncommon Goods is always my go-to place, and it makes it so much less stressful because I can get things for everyone on my list all in one spot. I've been eyeing their Create Your Own Real View Maker that I have in mind for someone I won't quite reveal. I'm also obsessed with their customized items with everything from song wall art to cookies that will definitely make it on my holiday list this year. When you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/dateable. That's uncommongoods.com/dateable for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary.
Yes, we all know the quality of makeup and skincare products are important, but have you ever thought about how you apply them is even more important for results? Since 2019, Anissa Beauty has been leading the way in creating vegan and cruelty-free makeup and skincare brushes that are safe for your skin and the planet and are designed to optimize the application and absorption of skincare products. Their popular Pinnacle Foundation brush has made such a big difference for me. I used to hate wearing foundation because it always felt so caked on, but with this brush, I can use so little product and it goes on flawlessly due to its patented triangular shape. Anissa Beauty's brushes deliver value and quality like no other. The same goes for their Pinnacle Skin Brush, which has completely changed how I apply skincare. I no longer use my hands to apply my products. Check out the Pinnacle Foundation brush as well as several other amazing brushes at anissabeauty.com and get 30% off site-wide with the code DATEABLE. That's ANISA beauty.com. And don't forget to use the code DATEABLE.
The last thing I think greatly contributes to why we end up settling for less than behavior is the scarcity mindset. We hear this over and over that despite so many options, there's a feeling of no one good out there. And I think you alluded to this at the beginning, Yue, of like when we're so picky, we have that list. That's what makes it feel like there's no one out there. And it's this perceived quality and connection that drives this like scarcity mindset.
Yup, it's better to be with a shitty person than to not be with anybody at all. And who knows who else is out there. I hear this from my friends who are in bad relationships all the time. It's like, at least I'm not dating. At least I'm not back in the dating scene.
Right.
My dating pool gets smaller and smaller with age. Those are the narratives we keep telling ourselves. People find love at every stage in their lives. Every type of person can find love. We just choose not to believe it. And that's why we get ourselves into situations where we feel like, okay, at least I'm with somebody.
Yeah.
At least this person chose to be with me. You know, I totally felt this way in the relationship I always talk about where we didn't have sex for a year. I was like, at least I'm in a relationship, right? Like, of course, we don't talk about why we're not having sex and we're not addressing the issues, but at least I have somebody and he's committed to me. That's all that matters, right?
That's a really good point because it doesn't always have to mean a situationship or someone that won't give you commitment. It can also be an unfulfilling relationship that you know is not right.
Right.
even if that person is fully committed. And I think the problem with the scarcity mindset is that it keeps us holding on, right, to the person that we're with, whether, again, it's just not the right fit or overlooking bad treatment. We did a poll a couple of weeks ago where 80% of people said they tend to get ahead of themselves and bank on potential and what we call imaginationships, when you imagine this relationship with someone that's not actually reality. And I think when we find that person that quote unquote checks the boxes, we definitely can get ahead of ourselves and think that like this is right for us when we don't even have that information.
Yeah, I mean, that happens so much in dating. We just like light years ahead and we can't even figure out if there's a connection in the present moment. I think this also happens with people who can't get over an ex. We have heard many of you are still stuck on the one that got away or someone from your past because you keep thinking about the positive qualities.
Yep.
But there's a reason why you're not together anymore and you choose to not think and remember those bad qualities and the toxic behavior that they exhibited. So then you keep holding on to this ideal of someone who is not real and never existed.
That was me, clearly. First of all, that was me.
Hey, it was Julie.
No, we have heard of other people as well writing about this, many of people, but 100% that was me. And I think a big part of it was this present bias too. It was what you just said, that you only focus on the positive, but the present bias is when you see what's in front of you only and something in the future feels harder to grasp onto. So it's hard to see that something better could be out there. So you're like, oh, this is what is in front of me. I'm going to put more weight on it.
Yeah, this is the best I can do.
100%. And again, a lot of it can be subconscious. Like, I think if someone asked me that, I wouldn't always say that that was the reason. But subconsciously, years later, I can now see that I really believed like this was the one. Part of it was because it was a connection I'd never experienced before, and I didn't think there was other stuff out there.
Yes.
But
yes.
also, like, there was a piece of me that was like, this person is like my physical ideal. They have a lot of like the things I'm looking for, even though they can't fully commit to me in many ways. So I held on to it.
We romanticize people from the past because we choose to not remember certain things. But if you were to be really objective about it and wrote down all the reasons why you're no longer together, it'd be easier to see. Like, oh, okay, obviously. But we want to romanticize this person because we feel like, oh, this is someone I was able to get. This is someone that was in my life and was able to chose to be with me. So we're like, oh, but I'm deserving of that. Remember, you do not deserve all the bad shit that comes with it too.
Right. Okay, so that was a lot of why are we doing all this? Why are we in the settling paradox? But now what's important is what we can actually do about it. Clearly, you could read our book. That's number one of what you can do about it, but it doesn't come out till January, so we're going to leave some other stuff.
Yes, please pre-order our book. You'll find all the frameworks that you need to get out of this. But the kind of one mindset shift I'm working on with my girlfriends who are going through this is I always say, like, if someone exhibits behavior that you think is not good, don't think that it gives you permission to do the same back. Just don't tolerate it.
Yeah.
You don't even need to call out people. Like, if you feel compelled to, do it. But the best thing you can do in dating is to not tolerate bad behavior. Say, I'm no longer going to see you. This is not the behavior I align with.
I mean, that takes me back to the episode we did with Sonika about the lowest common denominator.
Yeah.
And I remember we had this conversation with her that she's like, when someone gives me 20%, I give them 10%. Mm-hmm. And I remember just being like, if they're giving you 20%, just give them 0 and go find someone that will give you 100. Like, why give them 10%?
Yes. We spend so much time and effort trying to play this game of who can be worse at dating when we could spend a lot more time finding someone who's actually good for us. That's the difference. I will always go back to the rainy night of doing adult coloring.
Oh my God.
My adult coloring book that Julie is so embarrassed to even think about for me. I'm waiting for this guy to confirm brunch plans. We're supposed to have brunch plans on Sunday. It's Saturday night. He still hasn't said anything. So I was like, it's raining outside. I'm just going to distract myself with an adult coloring book while watching the rain instead of texting him. So I colored all night, still didn't hear from him. And in the morning, I finally texted him at 10 and he's like, oh, just waking up. Oh, yeah, sure. Let's grab brunch today. Like, hadn't even given a second thought. That was my moment to make the choice of saying, actually, no, you don't respect me. And you did not prioritize me when I prioritized you by coloring in the rain. That could have been my exit. But no, I was like, oh, at least we're still meeting up for brunch. That's what I tolerated. It's not his problem. It's what I tolerated.
It also can be like using that example. You're like, I don't want to put my happiness in someone else's power like that again. Like, why should I spend my whole night coloring in a coloring book? Like, one, I could just get my answer by texting them and not be waiting around.
Yeah.
Or two, I go live my life if they're not going to be like someone that's proactive and prioritizing me. I mean, I think the best thing that came out of my 2.5-year situationship that I talk about often, looking back though, what it taught me after I got out of that, I was like, I will never stand for someone that outright says they don't want a relationship again.
Yes.
I will never give them my time and my heart. And from that day, I never did again. Like all the relationships I had, even if they didn't work out, they were relationships that were reciprocal. I broke that pattern, and that was a bad pattern for me for many years. So I think sometimes it does take getting to your edge to realize like what you won't stand for again. But when you do hold people to higher standards on the things that matter, like if you're looking for a committed relationship and they won't commit to you, like that's a problem. It doesn't matter where they went to college or if your chemistry is off the charts, it doesn't matter. And you can hold them to the higher standards and then also be more giving on the things that don't matter. Like maybe they wore a shirt you didn't like. Who cares?
A major problem with what we see with the settling paradox is that we put people on pedestals when they don't deserve to be there. And all you're really setting them up to do is to fall off the pedestal.
Right. I think the one thing that people could do is stop talking about icks and red flags.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, if you and your friends are talking about it, or if you're listening to dating content all about it, like, get that out of your orbit.
Yeah.
It's really unhealthy. Let's be honest. We all have icks and red flags about us.
Yeah.
I'm sure I do icks all the time.
Yeah, same.
And also, one person's ick is someone else's, like, they think it's, like, endearing or quirky.
Yeah.
You know? So it's just, I don't know, when you're in a state of nitpicking someone apart too, like that is not an attractive world that you're living in.
Yeah.
I like to think about it reversed. If I was on a date where someone was finding all the icks and red flags about me, would I want to date that person? Absolutely not. And also, it's a good reality check that you also have icks and red flags.
Yeah.
Because then if you change it to appreciate these imperfections, not classify everything this way, then you can actually focus on the real deal breakers.
Yeah. There was that coaster I found when I was in Santa Fe that I posted. It was like, the quote was, find a man who loves stroking your hair, even though it's on your legs. Like that is so perfectly describes what could be someone's ick, could be someone's thing. Like they could really embrace that about you.
Yeah.
But if we keep looking for icks, we remove the human connection from that exchange. We now become commoditized because now it's like, oh, I don't like this feature on this car. I don't like this feature. And of course, every car is going to have features you don't like. So what are you going to do? You're just going to go out in the world and just find all the features you don't like about people. And then what are you going to do with that information?
Okay, I'm just thinking the hair example that you just gave. I've done this. So I'm being honest here that like, this is just human nature. I've seen hair on other people and I've gotten the ick.
Uh-huh.
Not even people I'm dating necessarily, just in general. I'm like very sensitive to hair for some reason. But then I'll go like a week without shaving my legs. It's such a double standard. And like, why do we find it with other people when we do the exact same thing?
Oh, all the time. All the time. Because it comes from that pickiness mentality. Somehow we have this God complex, in dating. It's like, no, because of dating apps and everybody's presented in front of you, you're like, I am the judge of Miss America now. I can pick everything wrong about everybody and circle all the parts I don't like. People are not out there for you to judge them.
Yeah.
We're out there for us to connect and find ways to bond together. And if you don't find a connection, move on. But stop like picking out everybody's imperfections.
So maybe there's 2 questions you can ask yourself. 1, do I do this too?
Yeah.
And then second one, is this an actual deal breaker?
Yeah.
Like the shirt example. Does this matter in the scheme of a relationship? And the answer is yes on the first one, no on the second one. You need to let it go.
Yes, definitely. Like also, it could just be an annoying habit. Everybody has annoying habits because so many of us have been single for so long. We didn't have somebody else there to check us or to give us feedback. I've been with people who do shit that really annoy me. And instead of me going, oh, that's such an ick or a red flag, I just say something and they're like, I didn't even know I was doing that.
Yep. My partner pointed out many of mine and I had no idea that I was doing them. But at the same time, like some of them I'm like, ooh, I actually don't want to be doing that. And I'm glad someone told me. Or others, I'm like, ooh, if this bothers him, like maybe I can adapt it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Or it's your choice if you want to
or you
change
say,
it or
fuck
whatever.
It. There's other ones he brings up that I'm just like, this is how I am. Get over it.
Yeah.
You have the same thing going on, you know?
Maybe think about relationships as a way, like we romanticize relationships. You know what? The reality of relationships is just 2 fucked up people coming together.
It is.
Pointing out the annoying habits about one another and then evolving into less annoying people together.
Maybe that's the key. And the people that are forever single and can't get into relationships are too stuck on all these imperfections.
Too stuck. That's it.
So raise your standards. I think the big takeaway here, another way to raise your standards is by dating the way you want to be dated. So if, like we're talking about with the icks, do you want someone pointing out all your icks? No, probably not. Do you want, someone that will respond to you quickly? You should be doing that too.
Yes.
The more we don't settle for bad behavior, the more we raise our own bar, the less we'll settle for bad behavior.
That's a very good takeaway from all of this. And then also knowing that it's okay to be completely single.
Yeah.
If there's nobody out there that you've really jived with or felt like you could build a relationship with, it's much better to clear your love life so that you make room for the right person to enter with a lot of clarity versus like clouding your love life with all the riffraff. I like to call it riffraff, all the riffraff. It's like all the stupid DMs you get in your Instagram that you're like, oh, I'll just keep them around because at least I'm getting attention. No, delete that shit. You don't need to be talking to any of these people.
Especially when they're not treating you well.
No.
If I was to redo one thing in my love life, it would have been to get rid of these people that were not treating me well.
Yes.
And to have the confidence to move on. And I think that's a big piece of it too, is really looking at why are you in this? If you're in a situationship or an unfulfilling relationship, is it because of fear, lack of options, that you don't think you can do better? Like, what is that root cause? Because that will identify why you're stuck in the settling paradox, that you're continuing to not make room for people that could actually be good partners.
I have this theory that people, when they match together, right, they go on a date, they either inspire each other to do better, like to act in a better way to better themselves, or they inspire each other to do worse. And I think it's important to think about when you're with somebody, like instead of thinking about all the stupid qualities that really don't matter, like, am I inspired to do better with this person? Am I inspired to actually call them first, text them first, to plan the next date because it just feels like we're on that track? Or am I inspired to go lower? Am I inspired to hit lower? Like, oh, I should wait longer to text back, or I should be busy too. I should fill up my social calendar too. If you feel inspired to go downward, then you are definitely at a position to move on. Because
I love that.
There is someone out there who will inspire you to go higher. That's what we're all trying to do here.
I really believe the true definition of settling is not having your needs met in a relationship or not being with someone that is willing to do that. All the other stuff, it's all negotiable.
Yes.
Every other characteristic, like if you want, someone to do X, Y, and Z and they can't do that and they can't fulfill it and you stay, that's settling.
That's your problem too. That's your problem too, right? And that you let yourself settle in that.
Okay, well, hopefully this gives, first of all, clarity into one of these major traps that's getting in so many people's way. We know this is a major trap because I would say at least 50% of the questions we get in are about undefined relationships, situationships, or something that is not a fulfilling relationship that people feel stuck in wanting to make it more or not knowing how to get out of it.
Yeah.
So this is clearly a big piece of it, and hopefully this gave you some quick ideas of how to reframe certain things. I think if everyone could just stop with the icks and red flags today, that's step one. And then, of course, all of this is going to be explained in much more depth. When we're doing these episodes, we're just scratching the surface of our books. So make sure that you pre-order and get all of that. howtobedateable.com.
Yay! And remember, you get all the freebies too. You get so many freebies. So many freebies. If you're stuck in something right now, even beyond the freebies, we do have guides for you to help get unstuck. And a lot of times, it's so easy to get unstuck if you just hear the right thing in the right way. I've noticed this, right? You can hear the right thing in so many ways and have it not click for you. But if you just hear in the right way, you're like, oh, fuck, that's the key that was missing to just unlock.
Yeah.
Okay, so all the ways you can contact us, hello@dateablepodcast.com. Give us some feedback there. You can DM us on Instagram @dateablepodcast. Send us your thoughts there. But also the best way to give us any of your feedback or to even ask a brunch talk question or to share maybe a takeaway you learned from this episode, you can give us a 5-star rating and review in Apple Podcasts. And in the body of your review, you can tell us exactly what you think, but keep it nice.
5 stars, please.
Keep it nice.
They really go away day. Actually, a 4-star will throw us off greatly.
Oh my gosh. See, this also goes back into dating. If you feel like you are in a 4-star relationship with someone, okay, then give the relationship an opportunity to give to 5 stars. Don't just give it a 4-star rating and call it a day. That's settling. When you're in a 4-star relationship, give your partner and yourself a reason to get to the 5 stars, and then you can give your rating. So if you are at a 4 stars about us, anything less than 4 stars or less, let us know how we can make it a 5-star experience for you. Set us up to success to meet your needs. Don't just build the resentment of that 1 star that you're taking away from us, because that's not conducive to a good relationship.
Send us an email and then leave the 5 stars later. But hopefully you're already at 5 stars. We love doing this. We love serving you and thinking of all the ways that we can help everyone. There was a Facebook post that someone retagged from a couple years ago when everyone came here. I think from the sounding board when we did that back in the day. Mm-hmm. We had the group come out to San Francisco. And I'm looking at this photo and literally everyone in there, or close to everyone, is in happy, healthy relationships.
I know.
I know. Damn, that's the stuff that keeps us going. So even if you're not there right now, we have proof that you will get there because we've seen it happen so many times.
Only if you want it, right?
Yeah.
If you want it, if you truly want it, there are so many ways to get there.
5-star karma
for everyone. Write that down. That's
pre-order and 5-star karma. Those are the ways.
That's a good one. Okay. All right, we're going to wrap up this episode. Stay dateable.
While farmers work hard to grow the best crop, their Iowa Corn Checkoff investments are working to foster industry connections to help companies replace petroleum with corn. Additional research is finding even more uses for corn and discovering new ways and practices to help farmers get the most out of their crop. The Iowa Corn Checkoff, working hard for Iowa's corn farmers. Go to iowacorn.org to learn more.